Good evening. It's Thursday night once again. Welcome to the Man Cave. We got brother Jeff down in Orlando and our good friend Darrin down in Darrin. You're not in Orlando. You're in where are you again?
I'm actually between Tampa and Orlando. I'm
Okay.
just south of Lakeland. When Lakeland's
Yeah.
kind of like right in the middle of Tampa and Orlando.
And we got the boss lady riding upstairs, keeping everything going.
Hi,
Tanya.
Tanya.
Hi, doing all right, Darren?
I'm doing good.
Great.
Been a
So
while.
it's
Been a while since I've seen you.
it's whiskey night. Uh, my favorite night of the week. I'm gonna have a little bit of this Jack Daniel's single barrel select tonight. Jeff, you having a drink tonight?
What do you think?
I'm sure you are. You got the old number 7 out.
Yeah, buddy.
Darren, are you tying one with us tonight?
I'm just drinking some red wine. I don't. I try not to drink too much whiskey. My wife doesn't like it when I drink too much because I tend to finish a whole bottle like in 2 days.
Yeah. Tanya, what do you got going on?
Well, got ginger ale and the Tar Heel.
Yeah. Well, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I look forward to bourbon night, whiskey night tonight. This particular bottle of Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select that I have, I'm a little over halfway through it. I think I'm going to put this one away and go get another one because this one, there's something unique about this one that I can't put my finger on, and I really love the flavor this one's bringing. Somehow or another, I'm catching a little cherry note out of this bottle of whiskey that I've never had before. So I think I might stick that one back somewhere and just save it as a conversation piece, maybe. I went to the liquor store today and didn't find anything I had to have. So, all right, let me get back over here to the chat window so I can see who we got. All right, Ryan, Anthony, Brian, Andy, Mike, Andrew, Russ is with us, John and Peter, and we got a good crew here tonight. Kevin. So if you're having a drink with us, be sure and pop us a comment. Let me know what you're having and let us know where you're joining from. We usually have a pretty diverse crowd here in terms of locations, and I got a cat trying to get in the basement.
Yep. I think your boy wants to come hang out.
Yeah.
I hear that scratching all the way over here in Tampa.
Tanya, if you want to open that door and let him in here, just leave that door cracked. That'll be fine because I'm not going to be able to deal with that for very long. He doesn't normally do this. I don't know why he's doing it tonight. We keep the door shut between where I am and where Tanya is because we feed back with each other on this live stream. And for some reason or another, my boy Kat's decided he wants to be in the basement with me tonight. But anyway, he has stopped. So Scott, see Eric, good deal. Got a good crowd here tonight. So Darren, we didn't get to talk to you when the hurricanes were rolling through, and I remember chatting with you briefly online. You were without power for a good bit of time. I guess it was when Ian came through.
Yeah, Ian was pretty windy here. We didn't get really too bad. Fort Myers and that area down there got a pretty direct hit, but our power was out here for about 3.5 days, and we got a lot of wind and a lot of rain, but thank God we didn't lose any roofs or anything like that. Even my neighborhood, very little damage, but
Right.
just being out without power for almost 4 days is the pain in the butt for sure.
Well, I'm guessing that you had plenty of bags of charcoal on hand to deal
Oh
with
yeah,
this
I had
situation.
plenty of ways to cook. I have little gas hot plates, and I've got
Yeah,
an outdoor oven.
Yeah, we will not go hungry when the power goes out.
No, because that's when we got to start cooking before it starts thawing out.
Right. So Rick is with us. I missed Andrew there. Andrew he's in Sweden, so
Yes.
we don't typically get a lot of Europe here this time of night. I know it's quite late where he is. I think they're 5 hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours north of us. It's probably 1 o'clock in the morning.
And thanks to international football, I know where his town is.
Awesome. So, yeah, we got Jarrell. Hey, Jarrell, glad you could jump
My
in
buddy
here tonight.
Jarrell's here.
Jarrell's everybody's buddy. He can't be just your buddy.
He's my personal buddy. He likes me the best.
Is Jarrell still out in Texas?
He is, but he's coming back. I think Jarrell said something about he's coming back to the ATL sometime before too terribly long. I think I heard him say something about that. And Luca's with us tonight too.
He
Excellent.
is in the house.
So Andrew's 6 hours off of us. He's further east than I thought he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's it's 2:30 over there. Yeah. No drink at this hour. Yeah, Jarrell said he's coming back to Atlanta. We'll definitely when Jarrell gets back there. I need to get back down there sometime just because I haven't been down there for a while. And I know I'll get there when Jarrell gets down, but I'll probably try to get down there sometime before then. We'll have to figure that out.
Now, Luca, you're my favorite Italian buddy.
All righty.
And here's my buddy Beth.
Yeah, glad you could make it. So anyway, guys, we brought Darrin on here with us tonight. We got a lot to talk about. So Tanya, I'm going to bring you back. Thanks for doing what you do up there. And Darrin, we haven't had you on in a while. And there's a lot. Bit. You've had a lot going on since the last time we've had you on. And let's see. I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want to start this conversation. I think I remember about the time what's going on right now might have started about the time you bought the freeze dryer. Is that about the case?
Yeah, because what happened was I got the bug on, hey, I want to start freeze drying some stuff and doing a little prepping, just play around with it. Cause I've seen, Greg Mervich, Ballistic Barbecue had one, some other people had one. I just kind of started looking at it. I don't know. I'm kind of like you. I like trying different things, and
yeah, I know.
That's kind of my hobby, and I play with stuff until I get bored with it. And
well, the freeze dryer has been on my radar for a long time, and not long back, I guess it was maybe a little over a year ago now. I had that on one hand, and I had this dry aging locker on the other, and I went with the dry aging locker at the time. It was a little less expensive than the freeze dryer, and it's something I felt like I'd use more. And
that's odd because you've always said you don't really care too much for dry aged beef.
No, I don't know about that.
Well, 30 days was like, yeah, you didn't like going farther than 30 days in dry age.
I've found having this, though, has allowed me to find my sweet spot, and my sweet spot on ribeye and strip roast is between 40 and 45 days. The 60-day stuff's a little funkier than I really. It's good. I'm not going to say I don't like it, but I like it better at 40 to 45. And having this guy here allows me to keep something in there as long as I can afford to buy the beef.
Now how much different is that than the Umai dry bags? Because that's all I've ever done. I'd be interested to see a side by side if maybe you could do a video of my dry one and a regular one.
I'll be honest with you, and in terms of quality, the difference that I see is that 60. This is probably the easiest way I can put it. 60 days in an Umai bag gives you about the same result that 45 days does in this. And I haven't gone beyond 60 in an Umai bag, so I don't really know how to quantify that because I'm not sure what the process difference is, or I haven't got enough comparisons to do it. But I know the stuff that I did for 60 days in Umai bags, I was okay with it. And the results I had there were close, very close to what I get from 40 to 45 in this thing. So that's about all I can tell you. And at 30 days, in this and in 30
It's in the
days in the
comments.
Umite bag, I can't tell a big difference.
Tell Tanya and she needs to check out the comments.
Oh yeah,
We got a spammer in there.
yeah. Tanya she'll fix that. I see it. She'll take care of it for us.
So
Yeah,
getting back to the
happen very often here.
Getting back to the freeze dryer. So yeah, I did. So I bit the bullet. They were on sale or something. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and try it and freeze dry some stuff. I have some room. And, so I waited. It took about 2 months for it to finally get here. It actually sat on a train rail up in Jacksonville for about 2.5 weeks, just sitting there because it was still, COVID was still going on. They were still backed up. So finally got it set up, and I freeze dried some stuff, started playing around with it, did some candy because that seems to be the big thing people like to do with them to try to make some money, selling freeze dried candy. They try to make money to pay it off or pay for it. I did that for a little bit, but down here in my area, it's a big agricultural area. So we do a lot of strawberries, especially, and blueberries and things like that. So I was able to we do every year. We usually do, you pick strawberries and you pick blueberries. So we did you pick strawberries. I freeze dried some of those, and then blueberry season came and I freeze dried a whole bunch of blueberries and said, well, what am I going to do with this? I said, I bet you I could powder this after I freeze dry it and then use it into some rubs.
That was my objective. That's the reason I wanted one, is to be able to do that. So
that's what I started doing. I said, let me take these blueberries and see what I could do. And I said, well, what would go good with it? And I said, well, I love black garlic. I've been playing around with black garlic for the last 2 years, ever since I kind of discovered it. So I've been playing around with it, making my own seasonings and stuff with it. So I just started playing around with making different flavors with it. And I came up with a blueberry and black garlic seasoning. Mm-hmm. And I just started making it and giving it to people, seeing how people liked it. And everybody was like, man, this is great. Never seen anything like it. So that's kind of where it started. And it snowballed into, what else can I make? And I like, I've been making my black garlic and coffee seasoning. I've been making that myself. And I said, well, what if I, see if people like that, and, see if, put it out there to my Facebook group and some people that I know and say, hey, try this out. What do you think? And everybody was like, yeah, man, that's great. So I said, well, like you, I like to, when I start going into things, I go full bore.
Yes.
So I just
started. I like black garlic. Jeff, have you had black garlic? Oh, have you had any besides that yet?
No, just this.
Okay. I tried making
It's got a very good flavor to it.
Yeah. I made black garlic here at the house quite a while back. I did it in my dehydrator, and I was pretty much told by my wife that we weren't going to do that again.
It's got to be outside, that's for sure. Yeah. When I made a batch at home too, and I had it out on my patio, but it was right where you walk out to the go to the pool area, and this was my old house. And as soon as you open that door, man, you got a big whiff of garlic because
it went away. It went away after 7 or 8 days, maybe 9 days. The aroma died down, but I really love the flavor of black garlic, and I haven't done it again. And I'm probably gonna buy one of these other types of black garlic. It looks like a crock pot sort of thing. They're not very expensive for doing it. I'm going to play around with that. But did you, Darrin, by any chance, freeze dry the black garlic to powder it? Did you do that?
No, I didn't do that. I had made some prior, like usually I made my own batch about a year ago. And after I made it, it's still kind of wet, so you really have to dry it out. So I put it in the dehydrator, or the dehydrator for a while, and it was still taking too long. So I actually ended up putting it in the oven for a good couple hours till it got dry. Yeah, till it got dry enough where I could actually put it in my spice mixer and
But
grind it up.
Could you freeze dry it?
You probably could. I never did that because when I started messing around with the seasonings, I was buying it it's a lot easier to buy it than
Right.
to make it yourself. I mean, it takes so long, and that's why it's so expensive, and that's why you don't see it in a lot of the blends and seasonings out there, is because it costs about 10 to 15 times more than regular garlic, just because I compare it to dry aged steak and regular steak,
Right.
because you lose all the moisture and it takes so long to make it, because
There's a time cost involved with it for sure.
Yeah. Well, I buy it from a lady out in Texas, and she's been making it for about 2 years, and she's getting bigger and bigger. So there's a couple companies out in Texas that are the bigger ones in the country that make it.
Right.
And it takes 60 days for it to actually just to make the black garlic, and then another week for it to dry and then powder it. So it's a long process, and you start with 30 pounds of regular garlic and you end up with 10 pounds of black garlic. So it's the same
I
type
didn't
of thing
think you get that much. That's impressive that you still get that.
Yeah, so that's why it's a lot more expensive, on the wholesale. That's why when I started, playing around and looking for co-packers, asking these co-packers, first of all,
yep.
if I have
this, hang on that thought, because I want to talk about, after we taste this stuff, I want to talk about that process of what's involved in going from the idea to this. That's part of what I want to talk about tonight. So Darrin was kind enough to send Jeff and me samples of this stuff. So I want to taste first this all-purpose. Hang on a second before I go any further. I've got Darrin's link up here. Hang on just a second. I'll scroll it across the bottom of the screen. This is Darrin's website, fireandwatercooking.com, where if you're interested in looking at this stuff, you can get it from Darrin directly on his website. So the first thing I want to pop open and try here is the all-purpose black garlic seasoning. And
now let me just preface it that they taste a little different when you put them on food. So especially the coffee one. Yeah. The coffee one tastes, you get a really hit of coffee if you just put your finger in it and taste it. But when you cook it on a steak, it tastes totally different. So
this one smells amazing when I first open it. And let's see. The ingredients on this bottle are kosher salt, black pepper, black garlic, powdered granulated garlic. Or no, it's black garlic powder, granulated garlic, onion powder, rice concentrate to prevent caking. Okay, so this is a salt, pepper, garlic.
Yeah, it's pretty much a basic AP rub.
This sounds like something that would go good on a ribeye.
Yeah,
definitely.
It actually goes good on pretty much everything. So it's I can put that on just about anything, but it's the black garlic just has a different, unique flavor to it. It's more mellow. It's got a more umami flavor. It's not punching you in the face like regular garlic does. So it's just a totally unique flavor. And like I said, I even talked to some other co-packers, and just trying to find somebody that would actually use it was hard. So
that has a really neat flavor to it. It's different. That's why I'd ask you, Jeff, if you had tasted black garlic before by itself.
A good thing to do is actually like make a couple pork chops or something.
Right.
Put that on one and just put a regular salt, pepper, garlic, AP rub on the other one, and you can really taste the difference. And it's more in the black garlic than it is just anything else. You still got the pepper and the salt and all that, but that black garlic just has a totally different taste.
The interesting thing about black garlic is, or in my estimation, this is just purely subjective from what I taste, is the sweetness that's associated with black garlic. Because what's going on in black garlic is garlic cloves are not black by design. They're a yellowish color. But what's happening in the process of making these things is you're actually creating a Maillard reaction in there, and you're caramelizing sugars that exist in that clove of garlic, and it brings a flavor that It tastes like nothing else. Mostly what I did with the black garlic I made is I made compound butter with it that I could slice off medallions of that and toss it on a steak, and it's really phenomenal. But this is good. This is interesting. And in fact, Darrin, I think one of the things I might do first with this, I bought a chuck today. I'm going to do that sous vide chuck roast that it goes for 36 hours and make a steak with it. And I think I might just use some of this on that. Jeff, have you got this one handy?
Yep, that's what I just tasted.
So what do you think?
I like it. It's just got a really good flavor to it. The black garlic does stand out. Nice note of sweetness to it. It's going to be great on tenderloin, any type of steak.
Yeah, you can. It is a low temperature Maillard reaction is what causes it, and it just like I said, it's similar to dry aging beef where the enzymes work on that garlic, and it actually increases the health benefits of the garlic.
Right.
Garlic itself has good health benefits, but the increased enzymatic action from the black garlic actually makes it 10 times more healthy. And that's why you'll find black garlic capsules, just like you do regular garlic capsules. I think there's a Dr. Marcola or something has a big product line. And one of my suppliers of black garlic actually sells to him in bulk. So it's getting much more popular. So like I said, it's just right now it's so expensive, but the more competition with it, I think there's like 3 good size manufacturers of it in the States now. A lot of times people buy it cheaper from China because China, but I get all mine from Texas. So the garlic's grown in California and the black garlic's made in Texas. I don't get any stuff from China, but it's a totally different flavor. But so when I started playing around with the freeze dryer, I started playing around with making these, and then I kind of, like I said, the more positive reactions I got from those, I said, okay, well, I'm going to start looking around and seeing what it would take to produce a seasoning. And, so I started doing a lot of research. So whenever you want to start talking about co-packing, I'll start talking about that. So
yeah, we will. This is a good it says all purpose right there on the bottle. And this is something that I wouldn't hesitate to just put this shaker on the dinner table. This is also, this will go good. This is one of those seasoning blends that's like my favorite seasoning blends are the salt, pepper, garlic blends. And the reason I love those so much is because there's nothing you can't put them on. You can shake that on anything. And
yeah, put it on pizza.
This would actually be a great shake on top of a baked potato. But you're right, it would be good on a pizza. Jeff, what would you put that on something, Jeff, that's out of the ordinary?
Oh, definitely put it on baked potato. Pizza, I'm not so sure I'd put it on pizza.
I used to put the Himalayan Sherpa on pizzas. That's just salt, pepper, garlic.
You're a little strange,
he put on grits.
Yeah, absolutely, grits would be great on grits.
Oh yeah, it's put it on scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
I would shake it on vegetables as well, like my broiled seared green beans or asparagus. That'd be a good shake right on top of that. So yeah, Darrin, I think
Cindy, it's good on popcorn too. I've had it on popcorn.
Popcorn, Cindy. Yeah. I'll have to get Tanya to talk about that. I'll give Tanya some of this because Tanya does popcorn frequently, and we'll let Tanya try that on some popcorn.
Now I got another
back, John.
I got another seasoning. I got another seasoning in the works though that's going to go even better on popcorn because you've seen a lot of craze on these butter seasonings now. The butter and garlic seasonings that are out. Well, I'm starting to make a butter and garlic herb. I'm going to call it black garlic compound butter because it's going to have butter, dried butter, and black garlic and herbs and stuff. So that's going to be something that's going to be really great on popcorn because it's going to have all those.
For a second. Black garlic and butter. Now let me think for a second. Jeff, what's the first herb you would toss in? Let's see if we can guess at what Darrin might be doing. What herb would you toss in that first? black garlic and butter.
Time.
Thyme. That's exactly what I was thinking. Darrin, are you thinking thyme?
Yeah. The first one though, the more I'm going to have in is a little bit of parsley, rosemary, sage, and thyme. So it's going to be
A little bit
The
of
song.
one of those. It's going to be the song, but it's also going to have, like I said, it's going to be one of those that you can pretty much put it on just about anything. It'll go great on a steak.
Yeah.
It'll go great on a
Yeah.
poultry rub. It's
Baked
going to
potato.
be, yeah, it's going to
That'd
be
good on
awesome.
fish,
So
too.
yeah.
That'd
So
be
it's just like
awesome
you
on
said, like
fish.
you use black garlic in a compound butter. That's why I'm gonna.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a compound butter, but in
Right.
a dry powder
It's in a shaker.
forms. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is get into this blueberry and black garlic.
That's the one that started it all.
Yeah, I remember this one because I think blueberries were some of the first fruit that you. Well, before I start here, let me do like I did on the other one and read you guys the ingredients that are in this: blueberry powder, sugar, black pepper, black garlic powder, kosher salt, paprika, onion powder, rosemary, thyme, cumin, cayenne pepper, and the rice concentrate to prevent caking. That sounds delicious. So,
Now that one's got a little bit of a kick at the backside. So
okay. But oddly enough, Jeff, what's the first thing you smell when you open that bottle?
Cayenne.
I smell the cumin right away when I open that. That's good.
so when I made this one, I wanted to make it where you had sweet, savory, and a little bit of heat. And I've got when we start talking about did you guys get the sauce too? Right, I sent you the sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Triple B.
So that sauce, I have a hot version that's in process. It'll probably be done by January, but it's the same concept. You got sweet first, then you get the savory, and then the heat on the backside. So it's kind of weird how that worked. When I was playing around with making this, it's like, so if we combine these, you always like the sweet heat type of rubs, but this one is kind of, you get the sweet, then you get the savory.
Yep.
Right after it, and then the heat comes on the backside. So it's just, you get it all in your mouth, but it's like delayed, so you hit the sweet comes out, and then a minute later you feel the savory and then the heat in the backside.
I think
Yeah, Beth, you're absolutely right there.
Beth, go back to Beth's comment, Tanya.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
This would be good on the smoked cream cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome on there. And then, and Beth, I haven't got to this yet, but this might be the right thing to go over the top of that when that's
Glaze
done.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, this
Yeah, that can go on
triple B
ice cream.
sauce.
That goes on ice cream too, man.
Yeah,
It's good.
I'm finally catching the heat on the back end of that. After a couple of fingers into that bottle, I can feel the cayenne coming in now. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. And I didn't really purposely do that. It just so happened when I mixed that the way I
But
did.
it's a slow comer. It's
Yeah,
one of the ones that
like I said.
doesn't come. Yeah.
The first
Yeah,
thing
John,
you hit,
you're right. I am getting the cumin in it as well as the
Yeah.
cayenne. That's
The
the first
first-
two things.
the first thing that hits you is the sweetness, and then then the black garlic savory comes in, and then the heat comes behind it. So it's like you get it all separately.
Right. I should have. That might be the one I should have saved for last.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get a little palate cleanser going on here.
Well,
I didn't think to get my candied or my pickled ginger out.
Scott, they do make it. You can actually look on Amazon. There's all kinds of dry butter out there.
Have you tried freeze drying butter yet?
Oh no, I got rid of the freeze dryer. It's not back there
Oh, you
anymore.
didn't keep it? Okay.
Nah, one of the things I found out real quick is that it's like a heater. So
I heard
and
that.
it's
I
in
heard
my
they're
office.
noisy.
You can't really keep them in the garage because you can't keep them in a hot area, and I live in Florida, so it had to be in the house, and I had to have it in my office, and it would raise the temperature in this office, 15 degrees,
Yeah.
and it's loud, and so I got my use out of it. I played around with it, and I pretty much sold it for what I paid for it, so I didn't
Well,
lose any money.
Well, guys, this freeze dryer he's talking about comes from a company called, is it Harvest Right? Is that the name of the
Harvest
company?
Right. Uh-huh.
They are the only company that I'm aware of that makes a freeze dryer that's suitable for home use. They have no competition. And
Well, My Patriot Supply is making them now. They're probably sourcing them from China, but they're more
Right.
expensive. So they're
but the
definitely
small
not.
one-
Yeah, they're definitely not a price point. The ones that My Patriot Supply sells. So
correct me if I'm wrong, Darren. I'm not 100% sure how much you can put in. Did you have the small one or the medium one?
I had the medium, and
It looked to me when I looked at the small one, it looked like it could hold 4 quarter sheets. Is that right?
the small is 3,
Is
and
it 3
they're not
quarter
really
sheets?
quarter sheets because they're only like maybe 4 or 5 inches wide, but they're
Also, they're
long.
smaller than quarter sheets.
Yeah, they're just really skinny. They're a custom size. You can't
Right.
go out and buy. You got to buy them directly from Harvard, right? So
Okay.
they do that on purpose,
Well, of course.
Yeah. So I found that out, and there was
So
some
how-
sheet there. I bought some extra ones on Amazon. They weren't the right length, but they were the right width. So you just bought 2.
So did the medium just hold 4 of those?
It held 4 of them, and you could get, probably about maybe 10 pounds of meat in there. If you were doing it meat, because you can't have it stacked up really high. You got to have it cut down and thin and all that. But I could do maybe 5 bunches of bananas,
Right.
cut up, and do banana chips and stuff like that.
Scott wants to know if you've ever used dried butter on a sous vide steak. I think I'm going to know the answer to that.
Well, I've been testing this new rub, so yeah.
So the next thing we've got here is the black garlic and coffee seasoning, and I'm guessing the intent of this one is beef.
Yeah, primarily beef, but it goes great on pork too. So pork chops, chicken, you can put it on chicken, but beef and lamb,
definitely.
Yeah, beef and lamb, it's awesome on. I mean, steaks, roasts.
Right. This one has kosher salt, espresso, black pepper, black garlic powder, onion powder, rosemary, thyme, cayenne pepper, and then the rice concentrate is an anti-caking agent. So this one is heavy on the nose. Or first of all, let's finish that. Jeff, do you have any on that blueberry and black garlic? Where would you see yourself using that?
I think, well, definitely the cream cheese, but also on pork. I think it'll go very good with pork.
Yeah, it's great on ribs, baby backs, all those baby backs you guys like to cook. Put that on
Our Walmart specials.
It gives a great bark because it gets really dark. Now it looks kind of pink in the bottle, and because I had to use a different type of blueberry powder than what I used when I was making it here was freeze dried blueberries that I picked myself.
Mm-hmm.
To get that when you're sourcing stuff, when you're trying to work with a co-packer, the cost factor is outrageous. So you got to try to find something that's already available. Then something that it cost me an arm and a leg to use really freeze dried blueberries and that I had to freeze dry myself. So
yeah. That's good though. So let's move on to this coffee, black garlic and coffee. It is, like I said, the coffee on the nose right away.
Yeah, you can smell it. And like I said, that's the one that when you taste it on your finger, you can taste the coffee a lot more than when you put it on a steak and cook it. So it does have, I'd say it's a little bit raw tasting out of the bottle, but after it's cooked, it tastes totally different.
Prime rib.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can see that going on beef ribs too. So
yeah,
beef ribs. For those of you that don't follow me very often, that to me beef ribs are the holy grail of the cow. And
absolutely.
I wouldn't hesitate for a moment to put that on beef ribs. Because
now I know lamb's not really popular in the States, but it's also great on lamb. But you put it on lamb,
I'm sure.
it's awesome.
Yep. I looked at some lamb chops today, in fact, when I was out shopping. And public service announcement right quickly while I'm talking about shopping, my food line has pork butts on sale for 99 cents a pound this week. So I'm working on loading the freezer up. I've got 4 so far, but I need to get about 6 more. And I couldn't find any really big ones. 8 pounds was the biggest ones I could get, but I've got 4 of them. So I need 4 more at least.
A good meat that all 3 of those rubs go great on is a pork tenderloin.
Yeah.
It'll work with all 3 of those, and then you'll have a different flavor profile on that pork tenderloin that you'll have it with the blueberry and black garlic. You'll have that sweeter aspect of it. And then you go with the coffee and you get that.
I like pork tenderloin.
Yeah.
Tanya likes pork tenderloin.
And all 3 of these, if you cook a pork tenderloin, put some on each part of it.
Right.
And you can taste them.
That's good. I'm impressed, Darrin. Those are all pretty good. They're completely unique. Each one of them, you don't have any overlap there. You've got 3 uniquely different products there, which is good. I like all 3 of those.
One of the things that when I set my mind to doing this, I wanted to be different than what everybody else has out there, even if it's something similar, like the all-purpose. Everybody has an all-purpose rub, but everybody else's all-purpose rub is the same. They're all salt, pepper, and garlic. They're all using the same ingredients. They may have different ratios, but I wanted to be different and say, well, I'm using black garlic, and it is different. So, and the same with these others. So, I'm trying to create things that not everybody else has. When you walk down the aisle at Atlantic Grill Company, you got 14 of the same seasoning. That pretty much if you covered up the labels, if you didn't have the label, you wouldn't know which one was which.
So the triple B sauce, blueberry, balsamic, and black garlic. When I opened this one, I could smell the balsamic and the blueberry combination together right away. That's very good on the nose there. So the ingredients here are blueberries, pure cane sugar, water, balsamic vinegar, honey, tomato paste, black garlic, dried blueberries, and onion powder, black pepper, and kosher salt. What's your target for this sauce, Darrin?
It goes on great on ribs and pork and chicken and seafood. I mean, it's not a big one on beef because I don't like a lot of sweet stuff on beef, and you do get the sweetness on that one. But seafood, salmon especially. Like I said, the next one that I'm coming out with is that same sauce, but it's going to have a kick of chipotle and cayenne on the back end. So that one you're going to have, just like with the rub, you'll have that sweetness, the savory, and then the heat coming on the backside. And I really like, the company that I'm having the sauce made through, they specialize in hot sauces. And the guy who owns the company said, these sauces are like amazing. I've never had anything come through here like these. So
that's delicious. Jeff, what do you think?
I like it. And I could see where somebody could put this on. That's what I was fixing to say. I could see where somebody could put that on ice cream and go, yeah, it's okay.
I've made some blueberry sauces before, but I've never considered the balsamic vinegar element. My blueberry sauces were blueberries and, of course, some bourbon. I have a couple of different blueberry sauces that I think I've made several blueberry sauces in the past and never made it the same way twice, but I had not considered balsamic as an option there, and I maybe should have, because that flavor goes extremely well with the blueberry. I would never have considered that, but yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to drizzle that on some ice cream.
That goes well on salmon, chicken, pork.
Yeah,
like I said,
if
you do ribs with the blueberry and black garlic on the ribs, the seasoning, and then you just glaze it with that sauce, it finishes it up just nice. So,
and that would be an awesome finisher on that smoked cream cheese. Also, that's really good. So Yeah, I think you're doing well here with all three of these rubs and that sauce. They're each delicious in their own unique way. So it's impressive. So now that we've been through these, let's talk a little bit about what it takes. You know, everybody in our barbecue, well, I won't say everybody because that would be a step over, I guess, but a lot of people make their own rubs, like to make homemade rubs. So once you've got your homemade rub recipe, Darrin, what did you have to go through to get from here to the packaged product?
Well, first thing you got to do is research. So you got to Google, what do I do to make a rub? And, the first thing they say is, you got to go to a co-packer. So me and you and I, we both know Ryan Lane. So he was one of the first people I called up because Lane's barbecue rubs. He does the whole line for Atlantic Grill Company and some others, and does his own. And so you got to find somebody that's going to make them for you. A lot of these companies, they make their own brand, but they also will co-pack, which is what it's called. They will take your recipe and bottle it for you. So the process I went through, I had to find somebody that would actually do it in a smaller volume, because once you get up to, like, even with Ryan, they have a minimum run that they will allow. So it usually goes by poundage. So let's just say his minimum was like 1,800 pounds of rub, which is about 2,000 cases, which I didn't want to spend that much money because I paid cash for all this. I didn't put it on credit. I didn't want to go charge up my credit cards. So I had been socking away some money from my, YouTube and all that stuff for a while. So you have to find somebody that'll do it on a smaller batch for you. So I found a guy locally here in St. Petersburg that's not too far from me, that they have their own couple lines of seasonings that they do, but they do a lot of co-packing. And you give them your recipe and send it to them, and they'll price it out for you. So you tell them, you got to do it in weights. So you got to do it in ounces or grams. You can't do it in teaspoons.
That's the way recipes should be done.
Yeah. So you got to make sure your recipe is, you do your recipe, make sure you got all your regular weights down instead of teaspoons and tablespoons. Make sure it's right. You send it to them. They will price it out for you. So they'll say, okay, to do like his minimum, I think was like 500 pounds. Okay. So for 500 pounds of this seasoning rub, this is how much it's going to cost you in these type of bottles, blah, blah, blah. And so he'll give you, a case cost and per bottle cost. And that's going to include everything but your labels. Usually it'll include your bottle, them capping it, them packaging it up in cases. You do the labels and just send them to them, and they put the labels on. So they'll give you a price breakdown of how much sometimes they'll give you different volumes too. So if you say, I want a 500 and 1,000, quote, and they'll do that because they'll give you a little bit of break in the cost if you do more. Right. So that's what you do. They'll give you this cost sheet. Here's what it's going to cost you. What do you want to go? You want to go ahead with it? And then when you say, yes, I want to go ahead with it, you give them a deposit, which lets them prepare the recipe and do a sample and send it to you. So they'll do a smaller batch, of like about 10 or 12 bottles. And then they'll send it to you and say, does this taste like what you made? And I had to go back 2 or 3 times on a couple of mine because it didn't taste anything like what I had done. So we had to make some adjustments. So, you have to do that. They include that in your deposit. So, they give you it's like just a couple $100 deposit, includes your samples and going back at least up to 3 times with changes. And then once you get that down, they go, okay, here's the final thing. Everything's good. Let's go. Then you have to pay for the run. You don't pay for all of it. You just give them like half of it up front. Right. Because they have to buy the materials to, the bottles and all the ingredients and all that. So you pay them about half of it. takes them a couple weeks or so, depending on how busy they are. Sometimes it's longer than that because they've got other runs ahead of you. So it could take up to 3 or 4 weeks for them to actually run it and bottle it. And then when it's done, they either send it to you, ship it to you by freight, or you go pick it up and you pay off the rest of it and you're done. But it's a process. It's not something you can do like within a month. It usually takes a good 2 or 3 months to get it done. I started all this back in June. And the sauce is pretty much the same thing.
Are you handling all the order processing and the fulfillment?
No, I have it on Amazon and Walmart right now, and I have I'm set up with Amazon for them to fulfill it and Walmart. So I ship them like about 20 cases of each, and so you can go on Amazon and it's on Prime. So I send it to a central warehouse and they send it out to all their different warehouses. So I do have some on Etsy and on my website that I do fulfill, and there's some on Walmart that I'm fulfilling myself because they're a little bit weirder to deal with than Amazon, where you can't really do packages. You can't link them together. So I do, but most of it's going through Amazon and Walmart right now. I'm trying to do more wholesale though. So I'm starting to reach out to a lot of companies. There's a couple websites for smaller retailers, like one's called Fair and one's called Mabel, that I'm on there for wholesale. So like independent barbecue stores and smaller specialty grocers are on there, and they buy wholesale through that.
Have you got anybody in your local community that you're having pick this stuff up?
There's a store in Bradenton, Florida, which is down by Sarasota. It's a beer and barbecue store, and you'd like this, John. They're out of St. Louis. They have like 5 up in St. Louis area, and this guy just opened this store down in Bradenton just last week. He opened on Thanksgiving Day, I think. And if you look it up, it's called Beer Sauce online, and they carry, that's what it is. They carry beer, like all kinds of different craft beers by the can. They just got over 500 different craft beers, and they have barbecue seasonings and sauces, and they make barbecue there. So they have events and all kinds of stuff. It's a cool little concept, but I brought him down a wholesale order just this week, actually on Tuesday. So
excellent. Jeff, it sounds complicated. Do we want to get in the rub business?
I don't.
Jeff, you want to finance my rub endeavor?
No,
it's expensive too. So unless you got somebody that wants to do it for you, I think like with Meathead, I talked to Meathead about, because for years he never had anything and didn't want to mess with it. But Old World Spice Company reached out to him and they said, just give us the recipes. We'll put your name and your face on it. We know we can sell it. So he didn't have to go through a lot of rigmarole.
I didn't know he had stuff out there now. Is his Memphis dust in a bottle now?
Well, he's got a pork, a red meat, a pork, and a poultry seasoning, and then he's got a barbecue sauce, which is a regular Kansas City type barbecue sauce. But I had talked to him on Facebook once, and I'm like, you always said you weren't going to do this. And he's like, well, they reached out to me and they said that I didn't have to come up with any money and they'd just pay me.
Jarrell said he's toyed with the idea, but you know what? I'm going to bring this up here because there's a point that needs to be made right here. Jarrell's rubs are way better than Mark Ashby's rubs.
woo!
Because that's an ongoing thing. That's an insider.
Yeah, that's been going on for years.
Good Lord. And you said it on the air, John. Good Lord.
Now, there is a way in seasonings where I know in Florida, and there's probably a lot of other states, you can actually sell your own seasonings and stuff, you blends under the cottage laws, because it doesn't have to be, everything's shelf stable that you're using, all your dried ingredients and stuff.
Yeah.
You just got to label it a certain way. I know Florida, all the states' laws are different, but Florida, I could have just made it in my kitchen. But you can't do heavy volume. If you get something that's really good, it's going to be hard for you to make it in your kitchen to do wholesale or anything. So you really need a co-packer, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just think, people thinking I'm just whipping this up in my kitchen and dumping it into bottles and shipping it to them.
That's not how you're doing it.
I started out doing it that way. I mean, that's how that's how you test it out to see it. And I was selling it on my website and through the Facebook groups. I just started as, hey, you guys want to buy some of my rub and see if it's good? Let me know. So that's how I pretty much, beta tested it.
You got a lot of good feedback from your audience on the.
Yeah. So that's what made me want to go ahead. And I didn't want to jump the gun and just go out and now my co-packer here in St. Pete told me a horror story that because he told me up front, he goes, now I got to let you know this, once you start doing this stuff, if you get to the point where, you bought all this rub and you can't sell it, it ain't my problem.
Yeah.
But he had a guy that I guess he got over $150,000 in credit card debt with this line of rubs that he had. And then like 6 months after he did it, I guess he found out he had cancer and he died within 2 months. And his wife came to the co-packer and said, I got all this stuff. I have no idea what to do with it. And he's over 150 grand in debt. All his credit cards are maxed out. So the guy bought the brand from her at like a discounted price and to help her out. But he told me up front, just don't go into debt doing this because, 9 times out of 10, it might not survive. But I paid cash for all of my stuff. So my wife made sure that I didn't go into debt. So my wife wouldn't let me put it on credit cards. So
that's a good plan.
But you definitely got to make sure you have something that people are going to buy. So you have to, if you can sell it at the local festivals and stuff, and see if people like it. I mean, I just happen to have a Facebook group and pages and stuff where I could put it out there and have people try it and give me feedback. So
right. Well, I think you're going to do well with these. They're
Yep, I agree because they're unique. You don't have these flavors out there.
The only problem I have is that it's expensive to make, and on the wholesale side, and I learned this real quick too. Most of your bottles are rubs. I'm going to grab one that I got here that's kind of not a brand you guys would all. Sorry, you probably can't hear me. It's not a brand you guys would really hear of too much, so it's not one of the bigger ones. But this bottle here is called Cindy Lynn's. You'll find it on Amazon. This is like a steak rub, but they're all this size bottle, 6 ounce, 5 ounce bottle. It costs about $1.50 to make this. Mm-hmm. That's his cost of goods. He wholesales this bottle for $4.
Right.
And then it's retailed for $7.99.
Right.
So, because all the ingredients in here are really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the cheapest salt, cheapest sugars, cheap. And
salt and sugar in my opinion.
Yeah. But when you start adding things like blueberry powder and black garlic, it shoots the cost up. So on the wholesale side, I have to charge, retailers a little bit more than what they're used to paying for stuff like this, and sometimes if they're just like a regular barbecue store and they're just looking to put stuff on their shelves that they can sell and make, 50 or 60% chomp on everybody, at under $10, they might look at mine and go, that's a little bit pricey because it's $12.99, retail price, but it's a little bit different.
Commercial rubs are expensive across the board. I don't think none of them are inexpensive. They're
right.
I'm seeing, I don't know, some of the rubs, some of these people like Matt Pittman, for instance, and
Malcolm
Reed, their stuff is showing up in Walmart now, you know, and Academy Sports. And I guess when you get to that point in distribution, you've done when you end up on the shelves at those places, I guess you could say you've arrived at that point.
Well, and the more you make like that, the cheaper it is to produce. So,
Right.
and like I said, this guy, I happened to talk to the owner of this brand, and he was trying to get me to rep his brand and stuff. And, he kind of gave me inside scoop about some of this stuff. And it's like, I can't make a bottle of my rub for $1.50. So,
Right.
so I had to look at it and go, do I want to make this? I'm going to be more expensive than everything. That's why I'm playing the whole, it's more expensive ingredients, something. That's why you don't see blueberry and black garlic in any other rubs, is because nobody else wants to take that risk and sell it, expensive stuff. So it's harder to get. It's, any of the fruit stuff is expensive too. So,
and I just wish I could remember the name of this rub. When I first got into the barbecue scene, I'm looking at, somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 years ago now. When I first got into the barbecue communities online, the first rub that I ever really heard of was a cherry rub of some sort. And I can't remember what that stuff was called, but it was what everybody had to have. And when I saw the price on a bottle of that, I said, I can't believe somebody'd spend that much money on a bottle of rub. And here I have spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on rubs throughout my social media existence. I have bought way more rubs than I've ever been given. And
one of the things I look at when I buy rubs, because I'm like you, I like to make my own rubs. That's what kind of started me down this. If I see something that maybe I can't get those ingredients relatively easy to make it at home, like dehydrated honey or some other stuff, like some of the Running Wild seasonings, the pecan stuff, and things that you really, unless you want to go searching for that stuff, to really make it at home, I'll buy something I look at and go, hey, that's something different. I will never buy a salt, pepper, and garlic rub, like a plain, Malcolm's salt AP rub. It's just salt, pepper. I can make that myself. No problem.
Well,
I'm not paying.
Malcolm's is different than everybody else's. Malcolm's is unique.
Yeah.
And when I made mine, I took from Malcolm on that, because Malcolm is not afraid to use MSG.
Yeah.
And I like that addition to that rub. That makes a difference there. And
but you can make that at home. You can make it at home.
Yeah.
I've got MSG in my cabinet. I just can't put it in my rubs because people are scared of it.
MSG's cheap. You buy that bottle of Accent at the grocery store, and you're never using but a little tiny bit of it. It does not take much. You have to be careful with that ingredient. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people that are afraid of MSG.
The first samples I did, I had MSG in them, and people were screaming at me, and I'm like, MSG is good and it makes these rubs better. And the people are like, I don't want MSG. So I just took it out. MSG, one of the things I talked to my co-packer about, and because they're experienced in selling the rubs, not using them. And I know, me and you both know MSG is not a problem, but you're dealing with people that they see that and they go crazy. And
well, they saw it on the Oprah Winfrey show, so it's got to be true.
So MSG got a bad rap.
So I took it out of my seasonings just for marketing. It's just I don't want it to be on there.
I use it in mine, and the recent series of rubs that I've made that I've shared the recipes on, I do not include my MSG addition in that recipe. I just keep that for myself at this point, and I'm happy with it.
You're holding out on us, John?
Yes, I am, because I'm tired of listening to people talk about how horrible a thing MSG is, and that way I don't have to hear about it, and that way I get to enjoy my rub is always going to be slightly better than the next guy's because it's got that in it.
Richard, you can add a little bit of MSG to it. Just, you don't need to put a lot. That's the whole thing. You could take a bottle of that rub and put less than a teaspoon of MSG in there. I would even say
less than a teaspoon. Yeah. In a bottle this size, you would not put more than a half a teaspoon in a
Yeah.
bottle this size, and I would probably only put a quarter in it. It does not take much.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it does enhance it. It just gives you more umami, but it definitely
But
makes
this
it
has
better.
black garlic in it. I don't know that you would really need it. The black garlic here is bringing umami.
Well, when I took it out, I really didn't notice that much of a difference. That's why it was easy for me to do it. That was one of the
Right.
things, when you talk to your co-packers, you just tell them, hey, I'm green, and they know you're green, and they're going to help you. They're going to say, look, ask them for advice. Do you think, and have them taste the rub and say, what do you think? Because I've tasted, had other people taste it and they say it's good. Have you had any kind of experience? And one of the things that my co-packer said, he goes, your stuff's great. He goes, I've never seen anything like it. And he had to order the black garlic in because he didn't have it and he didn't know where to get it. So I had to actually track down the wholesaler for it. And that's another thing I want to talk about too with co-packing. A lot of times on the smaller co-packers, they only do one or the other. They don't do both seasonings and sauces.
Right.
They only do one or the other. And the reason is with sauces, it's a totally different shelf, stability thing. And they have to have their stuff tested and pH tested and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they usually don't do both because they can't have them both in the same facility. So they have to have two separate, a big, huge warehouse with two separate facilities. So
Right.
my sauce is produced from a co-packer that's up around St. Augustine, Jacksonville area. And that's all they do is sauces. So they pretty much, mostly they do a lot of hot sauces, but they do barbecue sauces and stuff too. So, but that's all they do is sauces. You can't do a seasoning. So the guy in St. Pete, all he does is seasonings.
Right. And that comment before Scott's Tanya was asking about temperature sensitivity. MSG is not temperature sensitive. It is a type of salt, so it's not something that is affected by low or high heat.
Yeah. It's actually glutamates. It's glutamates. It's actually from protein. It's part of the five tastes in your mouth.
Right.
Umami is for proteins, and a lot of the tastes in our mouth are for our own good, for protection. Bitter is like, it could be poison, so you spit it out. Sweet's good, and the umami, which is what MSG is, it's from glutamates from protein. Right. So that tastes good to us. Salt tastes good to us because our body needs it. So
right.
Yeah, so it's actually, there's nothing wrong with it. So the whole MSG scare is based on a lot of crazy stuff.
So yeah, it's the only thing in any of the what is temperature sensitive when it comes to any rub are your herbs.
Right.
Everything else is fine. Herbs can scorch at searing temperatures if you're not careful with what you're doing, and when those herbs scorch, they become bitter. Garlic can also scorch and become bitter, but when you're dealing with granulated garlic or garlic powder, you don't have to worry about that. It's only when you're using like chopped or minced garlic that it can become bitter as it overcooks. So this is why when you're searing, like if you're searing a steak, for instance, if you wanted to use Darrin's black garlic and coffee here on a steak, if you're going to reverse sear this guy, or even if you're going to front sear it, you're going to want to sear. If you're searing over direct flame, you're introducing a possibility or a probability in that case of scorching this in a lot of cases. If you're going to sear it on something like a soapstone or on cast iron, if you'll throw down a little ghee, it'll keep that temperature where it needs to be to keep you from scorching the stuff that's in these rubs. If you're going to sear over direct flame, one of the things I've learned from various people on the internet, and I don't remember where I saw this done first now, but if you smear a really thin layer of mayonnaise on that steak and actually stir your rub in with that before you put it on there, that will also keep you from scorching that, and it'll form a really nice crust when you do that. I cooked ribs. I'm publishing a video tomorrow, I guess, of a rib cook I did yesterday where I used mayonnaise as a binder, and the result came out really well. So Yeah, Darren, you got any comments on how to not scorch herbs?
Just yeah, like you said, the open flames are gonna even when I sous vide cook sometimes and I hit something with a torch. If you have any kind of seasonings that have herbs or
Right,
big chunks of black pepper, they're gonna scorch and burn. So
right.
usually you don't want to use open flame when you got herbs and big chunks of stuff on there. One of the things I want to touch base on though, like you were talking about, they were asking if it's temperature sensitive.
Mhm.
You got to moisture sensitive is more. Especially the blueberry and black garlic. Both blueberry powder and black garlic powder suck up moisture out of the air. And being in Florida, Jeff, we know how humidity is. So that was one of the problems I was having, and I had to address it with the co-packer, and that's why that rice concentrate's in there. It's a
Right.
natural, it's a natural moisture remover per se. So it's not, the sulfur dioxide stuff that they put in the little packs. But so you got to have something in there that's going to make it so it doesn't cake up. But yeah, both the blueberry and the black garlic would cake up pretty bad when I was making it myself. We would sit there for like 2 days, and even with the jar closed and stuff, it would start to cake up because both of those
Well,
ingredients just suck moisture up.
I've seen rubs cake too, and I don't worry about that because I understand what's going on there. And one of the things I've quit doing when it comes to rubs, when I make my own rubs, is I don't put anything in there that's prone to caking. And the main ingredient that I used to use in rubs that's prone to caking was brown sugar, and I've just quit using brown sugar, and I use regular white sugar in the rubs. Don't have any issues with it, but yeah, you gotta keep them dry.
Yeah, and usually it's if it's really powdery stuff too. Like the black
Yeah,
garlic is really
yes,
powdery.
the
It's not
black garlic.
granulated garlic is better because it's the
Yeah,
grains are bigger,
I
but
buy granulated garlic and I buy granulated onion for the same reason. But I was at a place a while back that I found a bottle of black garlic powder. I said, I'm going to buy that. And I did. And I opened it and I used it one day for something. I don't even remember now what I used it in. I used it in a teaspoon or something in a rub that I was making for a specific recipe, but I put it away. And the next time I opened it, it was hard as a rock. The
yeah,
entire bottle was hard as a rock. I couldn't even use it anymore. I couldn't break it up.
it's
So,
it does it sucks up moisture, boy.
well,
So
and next
the
time I
blueberry
get any of
powder
that,
does too. So
next time I get any of that, I'm going to put it in a vacuum seal bag as soon as I open it and
yeah.
put it away. And
Now, Gerald, the rice additive does not add any flavor to it. It has no taste at all, and it's just in there and it's very little in there. You don't need a whole lot, but it's in there just to keep the moisture away from the other stuff. So
yeah, so here's a tip I picked up recently for caking.
that sounds like a good idea, Ryan.
Add a damper.
Damp red.
Damp red.
I don't know what that is.
It's a thing you put in your closet mostly, and it sucks the humidity out of the air. So
Okay.
If you put it in there, you got to go empty it once a week if you're
yeah,
in a humid spot.
Okay.
Because it's a container and just fills up with water and you dump the water out.
yeah. We down here in Florida, man, we got a lot of humidity, man. It gets 80-90% humidity.
That's why I don't
It's
like cast iron down here.
Well,
yeah.
Cindy's in a drier climate than we are here. She's out in Southern California, and I think she's in Southern California. So it's
Anything with brown sugar, Cindy's always going to clump because of the molasses in the brown sugar.
yeah.
Pull up Jordan's comment there. Yeah, Jordan. Always go off of weights. So you can use grams or you can use ounces. Don't do teaspoons, tablespoons, that stuff. Because if you ever want to have it produced, it's just easier too. It's easier for you to remember because teaspoon, tablespoon. It's not an exact science. So if you
For
the grams and ounces is much better. I think grams is probably preferred, but ounces works as well.
grams are easier to scale, and
Yeah.
because you're all on base 10, and all of my rub recipes and all of my baking recipes, I've converted all of them to weights. There are a couple that I haven't converted, but the ones I haven't converted, I've got them on ratios where it's like 1 part this, 2 parts that, 3 parts, whatever. And for home use, if you're just making rubs for yourself, uh, you can do it either way you like. The reason I like doing it by weights is I can set my bowl on my scale and shake in how much I need, hit the tare button, shake some more in. I'm not using measuring spoons of different sizes or measuring cups to measure out ingredients, and it's just much faster.
Yeah,
That
it's easier.
that kitchen scale will have a tare button on it that when you add something to it, you add however much by weight you need, you hit the tare button, it zeroes your scale, and then you just shake in the next ingredient, however much of that you need, hit the tare button again and keep going. You don't
That's how it was.
Yeah, you don't dirty up your measuring spoons, measuring cups, and that works for liquid and dry ingredients. So
That's how I started out making my season and doing a lot of times they'll ask you to send them the samples as well. So
right.
especially the sauce, they worked a little bit different than the seasoning guy, but usually with the sauce, you send them a sample of what you made and they'll try to replicate it with the flavor and everything. And sometimes I still had to send mine back twice till I got it right. But the good thing is, the next sauce I'm doing, it's the same base recipe. We just added some heat factor to it. So I still, even with that, I had to send it back, once at least to adjust that part because.
So what kind of heat did you add to it? You said
Chipotle and cayenne. So it's, I did the first one, they added like some habanero and it just, it was too hot right out of the bottle.
Yeah.
All you tasted was hot. And like I said, I didn't want it to just be hot, because even when I was talking to the guy who actually runs their production facility, when I was up there, I was there when they were bottling it. And he told me a lot of people, they will put all these fancy, expensive ingredients in their hot sauce. And then they'll put a bunch of, habanero or ghost pepper in there. And he can't taste it. And they spent all this money. And he's like, just put cheap ingredients in it if you're just looking for super hot, because you're not going to be able to taste all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, when I developed my hot one, they're in production now, but I got all the samples. I was up there and they were tasting the samples and they're like, this is what people should be doing with their hot sauce, because you can taste the sweet first, then the savory comes, and then the heat comes on the back. So you can taste all the ingredients in there instead of just, he said one guy had like 42 different ingredients in there and then all this habanero. He said all that other stuff, you might as well just threw it away because all you tasted was the habanero.
Jordan's got a good question here. I'd like for each one of us to take a stab at answering that question. And Darrin, what do you think the main focus of a rub should be?
Well, you got to start out with an idea on what you like and what kind of flavors you're looking for. First you're gonna what meat it is, okay? Because a lot of times, if you're looking at beef, it's not going to be the same on chicken or fish, right? So trying to figure out what flavors you like and try to put it into the rub. One of the things, like I said, I've been playing around with black garlic for years. So one of the things when I started playing around, I know I wanted to incorporate black garlic, and I wanted to focus on a flavor that wasn't out there or a mixture that wasn't out there that would taste good, not just something to be out there, but something that actually tastes good. And I started with the black garlic and blueberry. Like I said, I wanted to be able to taste the sweet and the savory and have a little bit of heat in there. So I wanted to have all aspects of your mouth coming into play instead of it all being muddled together, which a lot of times if you just throw a bunch of ingredients together, it can get muddled. They don't taste, you can't taste any of them. You just taste a bunch of blah. So when I see some of these seasonings out there, if they've got, 18 or 20 ingredients, that's just too many. It's like a restaurant that has 400 menu items, They can't do anything good, it's just everything's mediocre.
Some of the best rubs I've had have got 6 ingredients or less.
Right. Yeah. And that's the way I approached it was I want to be able to taste all these ingredients, and I want them to work well together. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's going to be personal taste too. Something that you like, somebody else might not like, but try to make it to where if you're using basil, make sure you can taste the basil.
Yeah.
Don't just put ingredients in there just to have fillers, because there's no sense of having something in there if you're not going to be able to taste it.
Jeff, what do you think?
I totally agree with what Darrin said. And the reason why I go with that is everybody's tastes are different. I mean, what I like is maybe different than what you like. So, I mean, you probably have some store-bought rubs that you like, but they're not quite where you really want to go. So take a look at what's in those, use those as a starting point, and
Right.
add to it what flavors you want to bring to the plate.
I'm first to admit that I look at other people's rubs and say, hey, and I'll make my own from it. Hey, what are they using in this that tastes unique? And I'll go through the ingredients, if they happen to list it. So, and then I'll play around with it until I figure it out. So it's definitely, there's a lot of that goes on. Like I said, the whole garlic butter seasonings out there is a big thing that's going on now. And I think there was a garlic jalapeno seasoning that both Heath Riles and Cosmo released at the same time, and they both look exactly the same. So that's like they copied each other like right away.
My opinion, when I'm putting a rub together, my primary concern is having the right amount of salt in it. I start with the salt. Anytime I'm going to make a rub, I put a certain amount of salt in my bowl. And then I start adding the things to it. I bring my flavors to go on top of the salt, because there's two lines of thought with seasonings. Some people like to keep their salt separate from their rubs. So you can either make your rub with salt or without salt. And since I always make mine with, I start with salt. I'll put 100 grams of salt in a bowl. And then I'll say what flavors I do, like you guys said, I figure out what flavors I want to bring with that salt, or what flavor profiles I want to add. Salt is not a flavor profile. Salt is a flavor enhancer. So salt, when it's done properly, is going to amplify the flavor of everything else that's there, including the seasonings that are going in there with it. So I start with salt. And since most of the rubs and seasonings I like are going to be based on a salt, pepper, garlic blend, I have a salt, pepper, and garlic ratio that I start with, and then I bring the additional things to it. The earthiness that I bring to mine always comes from paprika, and getting the right amount of paprika for whatever I want to do, and then bringing a little bit of heat factor with cayenne. I just build it, and I taste it as I go, and I'm making notes how much I've put in there. So Mike's asking about sauces. A sauce is more about an added flavor than it is a flavor to enhance. I don't know. Help me out here, Jeff. A sauce is not going to really change or amplify the flavor of what you're putting it on. It's an additional flavor layer to go on top of what you're doing. It's got a little bit different purpose than the rub.
Definitely. Yeah. It brings the flavor after the fact.
Yeah, it's like a bonus.
Whenever I serve barbecue, if I have people over and I'm doing a whole bunch of pulled pork or something, I don't put any sauce on any of my stuff. Ribs even. I won't put sauce on ribs. I just serve it, and I put sauces as condiments, because that is something that's, like you said, it's some people like more spicy, and so they want I give you the base flavor, which is what the seasonings on the ribs is. Now, if you want to play around with that and go a little bit more sweet, put some sweet sauce. Right. You want some sweet heat, So that's kind of the way I look at sauces. Yeah. They don't enhance. They're not there to give you that main flavor. They're there to be an addition, or like a a topping like on ice cream. You know, your ice cream,
Right.
you got your ice cream, your main flavor of ice cream, whether it's peanut brittle or whatever, then you pour chocolate sauce on it, is a different aspect to it, and it makes
And
it different.
I'll give you a tip for sauces that you can take however you like. If you find a sauce that you like, there's no rule anywhere in any book, in any stone tablets that came out of any caves that says you can't tweak it yourself. Like Darrin's sauce here, this is delicious. This is a beautiful sweet flavor. If I wanted to have a hotter version of Darrin's sauce here, there's no reason I can't dump a little bit of that in a bowl and add a little cayenne pepper to it, or drop a few drops of hot sauce in there and make it what I want it to be. You can do that with any sauce. And some of the best, I hate admitting this, but it's true. Some of the best barbecue sauces I've ever had have come where people have taken something like a bottle of Kraft barbecue sauce from the grocery store, some cheap,
Doctored it up.
yeah, and done something cool with it. You know, they've added something else to it. It's really, I'll say, man, what is that sauce? That's delicious. And I'll feel real crappy when they say, oh, it's Kraft from the grocery store, but I just added a little bit of this to it and turned it into something amazing. Don't hesitate to experiment with stuff, because that's how you'll get where you want to go.
One of the things I used to do with that, I would take Sweet Baby Ray's, and I would dump some dehydrated onions, you know, that you can buy in the bottle. Dehydrated onion, dump that in there, and I'd put a little bit more sugar in it, and a little bit more salt, a little bit more garlic, and just doctor it up. But yeah, you can definitely doctor up sauces, and I've done that for years. So, but when you're making a sauce. But when you're making a sauce, it's just like a seasoning. You want to start out with what do you want that sauce to do? What do you want to put it on? What kind of flavors you want to bring out? But anything like that you're going to make, you know, you want to know going up, what am I going to put it on? You know, somebody asked in the chat, I think it was Richard, if my hot version of the Triple B sauce is going to be good on wings. You can put it on wings. You can put it on anything. That's the thing. I'm trying to make the seasonings and the sauces I try to make it where they don't go on one thing. You know, I want them to be able to be used on multiple things. Now, like the coffee rub may not go well on seafood, but you know, there's a lot of things that can go on. Yeah, but it might. But I haven't tried it on it yet.
That would not be a horrible blackening sauce that you could use on blackened anything. So
blackened grouper, blackened shrimp.
But I can tell you the blueberry and black garlic goes great on salmon. I actually had it last night. So.
So yeah, we need to start wrapping up here. We've gone along like we normally do. Let me wake Tanya up. Tanya, you still alive up there?
Yep.
Okay. You've been doing a good job of keeping these questions popped up there for us. So.
Well, we did have one at the beginning that we didn't quite get answered.
What is
from Jarrell? He was asking about the benefit of aging beef. Is it a texture thing? Is it a flavor thing?
I hope Jarrell's still with us. It's some of both, because there's a lot going on when you dry age beef, and one of the things that's going on is tenderizing. You would be amazed at how more tender something is after it's been through dry aging. And the texture is changed, but that's texture. So yes, it is a texture thing, and flavor is changing as well. And this flavor is hard to describe. I like to use blue cheese as a descriptor when I'm talking about the funk that comes along with dry aging beef. It gets funkier the longer you let it go, and that's why I have determined that 60 days is funkier than I like. So, Jeff, what am I missing out on here with dry aging? It's concentrating the beef flavor. It's concentrating the beef flavor. It's
concentrating the beef flavor, and it's breaking down the beef to make it more tender.
Yeah.
So you're losing moisture. You're losing moisture. You're actually increasing the enzymatic action, which
Right.
is what's breaking it down and tenderizing it and creating some of those flavors. Then you got some molds and stuff that are actually creating flavors. That's where that blue cheese comes from.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot goes on in dry aging and that's why when you start with it's another thing, you start with like a 10-pound roast and you dry age it for 45 days, you got a 6-pound roast because you lost all the moisture and it's concentrated a lot of those flavors. Enzymatic action has tenderized it and created some more different flavors. And there's a lot going into it. So you can definitely tell a difference.
Most of my dry aging, I'm losing 20 to 23% of weight from moisture, but I'm losing the pellicle that I'm shaving off as well. So there's some loss there. But I think 60% yield, 65% yield is going to be your ultimate target with dry aging, because there is going to be some loss.
And we do have. Oh, go ahead, hon. I thought you were done talking.
The loss that's coming from the pellicle is not as extreme when you're using the umai bag. I'm having to shave off a little more pellicle from my process here than I was with the umai bag. So Darrin, there's another difference that's worth talking about. The umai bags are awesome. I'm not going to talk bad about that process because it's good. And it's inexpensive, and it allows you to do this process in your refrigerator without having to have a bunch of expensive equipment. So umai, I think they're called UMAI dry. Is it umaidrybag.com? I can't remember what their website is. So
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. If you just type in umai dry, it'll pop up. Yeah.
Yeah. UMAI. Search that and you'll find it. You buy these bags and you'll need a vacuum sealer, you'll need a food saver, and basically you just put your whole roast in one of these large bags and follow their instructions for sealing it up, and you put it on a rack in your refrigerator and you just flip it about once a week, and then you'll have a very great piece of dry aged meat when you're done. So give that a shot. So
yeah,
and there was one
I've always
quick question, if you guys don't mind. Jordan would like to know when dry brining is using a rub versus just salt beneficial.
Well, Darrin, I'll let you take that one because you and I have a different philosophy on that.
I don't know if we do or not. Brining is salt, so anything else that you put on there is just going to stay on the surface. It's not going to go into the meat. You can put it on there. I do it all the time. If you're going to use a seasoning or a rub that's got salt in it, that garlic or whatever else is in that seasoning is not going to penetrate into the meat. The salt will. The salt has a chemical reaction, diffusion that actually changes the chemical makeup and sucks the water out and puts it back into the meat. So none of that garlic or pepper or anything else is going to go into the meat. So you can use a rub if you want to, or you can just use salt, whichever you want.
But what you don't want to do, you don't want to use just salt and then go back and put a rub with salt on it.
Yeah, then you oversalt it.
Yes. So I just use a rub that's got salt in it when I'm dry brining. I typically use either my pork rub or my salt, pepper, garlic blend. And I like to season my meat, whether it be beef or pork, up to 24 hours before I'm ready to cook it. I don't have any problem with that. And I just use my rub. And like Darrin says, the only part of that that's going to penetrate the meat is the salt. And the rest of it stays on the outside, but it doesn't hurt anything for it to be there. But don't assume that all of that stuff's going to penetrate into the meat, because the molecules are too big for the osmosis to take place. Salt is a very small molecule, and it's the only one that can do that. And the sugar won't. It all stays on the surface, but it's flavoring that meat up top. It's helping with what's going to be your bark and your crust in the end game. So Jeff?
Yeah, there's
Agreed.
been a big debate on that in the sous vide groups, especially because there was always one group, especially the guy that ran it, just said, don't season your meat before you sous vide it because it's not going to penetrate. Well, I season my meat like you to get it on the surface. I know the salt will penetrate in the sous vide, and so don't tell me I can't put the other seasonings on there because most of it'll wash off. Most of it'll wash off in the water, but it's still going to coat the outside pretty evenly.
Its flavor behind.
It's going to leave the flavor on there. So
yes. So I'm going to do a sous vide. My video that I'm going to make next week's going to start out with a sous vide cook. So I'll figure out what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that chuck steak, Darrin. And like I said, I might just season that guy with this all-purpose black garlic. I think that might be a good one for that. Does using a rub with salt on pork lead to more of a ham effect? No. I don't think so because the ham effect is created by the
curing salt.
The curing salt, which is the sodium nitrate, in my opinion. Salt. Yeah. That's a tough question because there's some subjectivity to that answer. Jeff, what do you think?
I'm saying no, it's not going to add that much to it. I mean, it's not going to give it a ham effect. With the ham effect, you need the sodium nitrate too.
Ham is an effective curing, and salting meat is not the same as curing meat. No. It's part of the curing process, but it's not the definitive part of the curing process. So it is a way to cure meat, but it's not the same method. And I don't know, it's maybe something I should look up and find a little bit more information about because salt is a preservative. But
right, that's what I was going to say. Back in the old days, they used to do salt meat used as a preservative, and then you soak it in water for however many hours to leach the salt back out of it.
Yeah, but sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite don't do the same thing as salt.
No, it's a different type of salt because to use regular salt to preserve, like you're talking about, Jeff, you need a ton of it. You need a lot of it, and you need a lot of it to actually penetrate into the meat. With the sodium, with the pink curing salts, you need very, very little, and it just has a different chemical reaction to the meat, and that's where that pink color comes from, and
that's where your smoke rings come. That's what's making your smoke ring, guys. Is
artificial smoke ring.
Nitrate. Yeah. It's not artificial. It's the exact same chemical reaction that's happening in the grill.
From the smoke. It's from the smoke in your smoker. Yep.
So it's that's why ham has a pink color to it, and I've got a good example of an answer to that. A long time ago, I bought a fresh ham that was uncured, and I brined that guy, but I didn't cure it. And it tasted nothing like ham, and it didn't have the color of ham either. It had the whitish color. It looked more like pork loin when I was done with it, and it did not have that hammy flavor. And it's because it wasn't cured meat. And pastrami, if you look at the pastrami, the curing process turns that beef a brilliant red color, just like it's like a smoke ring that goes all the way through the meat. And it's a different process. So that's a whole nother conversation. Maybe we'll Jeff, remind me, I need to get a curing expert that would come on here and talk to us about curing. That'd be a good
Get
subject.
Dr. Blonder. Call Meathead, see if Dr. Blonder will come on.
Yeah, I've never talked to him before, so that'd be a good one because I use his calculator about every time I cure something on the Amazing Ribs website. That's the calculator tool I use to figure out how long I'm going to wet cure something in an equilibrium brine. So there's a lot of geeky math, guys, and curing. But it's important because you don't want to use too much of that pink curing salt. It's dangerous if you do. So
there's a lot of science in cooking people don't understand.
Yeah.
There's so much science in cooking that, it literally, if you just want to cook yourself a steak, you don't need a whole lot of it. But if you're geeky like us, I like to dive deep into some stuff. So
it's a chemistry.
I like the equilibrium curing process because it keeps you from over salting anything or over curing it. And when it's done properly, you don't have to do a desalination. Everything's right where it needs to be. So, all right.
I'm going to show you here before we go. I want to show you a new toy that I've been playing with here.
Yeah,
and this is a new. This is a new thermometer, and this is from. If you don't know who Chef Chris Young is, he's the one that started the Joule sous vide circulator, Chef Steps. He worked for Heston Blumenthal at the Fat Duck. He helped write Modernist Cuisine books with Nathan Myhrvold.
Yes.
This is his new thermometer that he's coming out with, and I am a beta tester for this. And what this thing does, so far I've used it a couple times, but this is actually different than most of your wireless thermometers, like the meter and meat stick. This has 8 points that it reads the temperature from. So from the core to the middle, it's 8 points all along here, and then the end, for your ambient temperature. And what it does, and what it's supposed to do, is predict when your meat's going to be done. It takes all those different temperature points and calculates with an algorithm when your pork butt's going to be done, or your brisket, or steak, or what have you.
After I saw it on one of your videos, I looked it up.
It's still in process. He's still playing around with it, but the guy, he is a big engineer guy. He started out, with a master's in engineering, got into cooking. Same with Kenji Lopez Alt. He started out in architecture, got an architectural degree, just happened to work part-time in kitchens, but used his scientific mind to get into cooking. So there's a lot of wormholes and rabbit holes you can go down when you get into cooking if you wanted to. So
it's another expensive tool for sure. It's
well, and like I said, there's a lot more that goes into it. That's like, all these different cooking methods. They all have their ups and downs. And
Darrin, does that thing have Wi-Fi capability? Is it going to be Wi-Fi?
Just Bluetooth. It's just Bluetooth right now. Eventually they'll do Wi-Fi, I'm sure, but it's got a pretty powerful Bluetooth.
That's Bluetooth the only thing. When I looked at it, I'm thinking to myself, man, if that doesn't have Wi-Fi, nobody's going to want it, because everybody in this day and time is convinced that if they can't interface with it from their phone while they're at the grocery store, it's no good. Or while they're at soccer practice, it's like people in this day and time don't have enough time to cook, so they're dependent on being able to control their cooking tools while they're at soccer practice or at the grocery store, and it's making everything more expensive than it needs to be.
Many Sundays, I'm sitting at at church on the bench, checking on my food, making sure. I got something in my Innova Precision oven that's cooking for the potluck afterwards, so I can just go home and pick it up. So,
I'm still cooking on that thing. I've still got that oven, and I use it. How you like that? We need that. That's a whole separate discussion too.
Well, let's talk about. We'll come back. I'll come back sometime, and we'll talk about all these different gadgets, because that's hours in itself, just talking about all the different gadgets that are out there.
All right. Well, Darrin, I appreciate you coming on with us, and we'll have to have you back on sometime soon, as maybe when your new sauce comes out. You got any new rubs coming? Just the sauce?
The butter and the compound butter one, but those probably won't be till January or February. So everything gets kind of shut down in December on these co-packers. So, but I got another couple things I'm working on, a couple sauces and seasonings, but I got to make sure I can sell these first. You can see behind me, I got boxes of stuff. So,
all right. Well, guys, I appreciate you hanging with us, and we'll see you next week.